India's market news headquarters. Cutting-edge analysis. Influential insights. Market-moving intelligence. Broadcasting live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios in Mumbai.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. It's a Friday morning. We are coming to you live as always from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Reema and Nigel. And I think, I don't know, I'm a little afraid to say that maybe the big events are all behind us. Maybe
one more to go, right?
One more. It's been that kind of a week.
Yeah, we have three big events to look forward to. The US elections, the Fed meet and MPC. So 2 out of 3 done, and here we are on Friday.
Indeed, and today I think we have a couple of big numbers that we're looking forward to. So results season will continue. SBI is going to be top of mind.
And Tata Motors. But that's post-markets, Tata Motors?
SBI I think second half of trade.
SBI second half.
Usually by about 3:30, I think 2:30, 3 o'clock the press conference kicks off and the numbers are out before that. But, as always, let's rewind the clock back and take you to the US market close and what the handover is because it's good. It's looking good. So equities have had it good since Trump swept America, the elections at least. And equities have continued their rally. So that post-Trump, post-election rally continues. And the indices sit at new all-time highs after last night's close. S&P about 0.75% higher. Nasdaq about 1.5% in the green. You had the Fed meeting, which went without incident. So you had a 25 basis point cut. And really no big surprises in that sense. Actually, if anything, the most memorable part of the FOMC was not about monetary questions or their guidance, etc. It was, of course, about the election. So Fed Chair Powell was asked about whether he would resign if asked by Trump to resign, and he basically said no, replied no, and he was pressed on this point. But of course, he said he's not resigning, he's not going anywhere. And I think this is the portion which more than anything else is making headlines at this point in time. Otherwise, I mean, his comments were largely dovish. I mean, there was nothing really to indicate that they're changing course. I mean, at one point, he was asked whether the big what's the indication they're taking from the way market rates have moved. And he said, well, it's kind of transient, it's temporary, it's not lasted for too long. And other points were pressed as well, made as well. But he largely stayed the course, saying that, well, they want to get to the neutral rate as far as inflation is concerned, as far as rates are concerned. Now, you got the 10-year, which came down 10, 11 basis points. We left off at about 4.33. And this is important because, yields going up to 4.5%. I mean, right after this was the close day before yesterday, 4.5%. But coming off to about 4.3%, it's good for equity markets. Yields and equities both can't rise at that pace. I mean, one's got to give, and yields have cooled off a little bit. So that's good to see. Dollar index, similarly, is down 0.75%. It could be positioning, etc. So some profit taking more than anything else. It's not as if the upside is finished, but 104.36 is what we have as we begin the session here. Oil prices, $75.5 per barrel. You got the China NPC, which ends today, the National People's Congress. So, I think people will be on the vigil to see if maybe some package is announced, etc. There have been reports by Reuters saying this could be the size, but we'll see if they announce something today before the end of the NPC or they wait for actual policy pronouncements from the Trump camp. Okay, now just to circle back and put in the levels here. Yesterday, of course, was a complete reversal. The market left off at day before yesterday's low, which is 24,204. We left off at 24,199. So practically there, that's it'll be great if we are able to hold those levels, 24,200 or so. Below that, I mean, the support comes in between 24,100, 24,000. Resistance on the way up is the 20 and the 40, which is 24,527 on the way up. That's a 20-day, and the 40-day exponential is 24,713. Bank Nifty resistance comes in at 52,493. Support levels come in at about 50,470 to 51,500. These are supports which we are tracking. Gift Nifty will come up on your screen. FIIs have been relentless sellers. Yesterday also we got that big number, and we'll talk more about that. So, how much more selling? I think that is the question which we don't have answers to. There's one view that maybe this goes on for a bit longer, and towards the end of the year that gets exhausted, and as new allocations to emerging markets and generally global allocations get set towards the last 15 odd days of the year and the first 15 days of the next year, maybe that'll give us a fresh look about what investors want to do. But so far, I mean, that's selling 4,000-5,000 crores every day. It's all gotten absorbed. But of course, I mean, it's not let the market rise or do its own thing. This morning, we're starting about 11, 12 odd points lower. Rima.
Hi, even yesterday, the GIFT Nifty was flat, right?
Yeah.
And look where we ended, down about 300 points. The Nifty ending at 24,200. The Lal Street pretty much taking a big U-turn. But there's just one more point from the Fed statement. In the policy statement, Fed has removed the line, gained greater confidence that inflation is now sustainably moving towards 2%. He balanced it by saying that yes, inflation has made progress towards the central bank's goal, but that statement about greater confidence about inflation achieving the 2% mark has been removed, and that's gotten investors a little bit more confused, keeping in context the US election verdict, the possibility that the Trump tariffs could be inflationary. So that on the sidelines is a tad bit hawkish.
I'll tell you one thing. He was asked specifically about this, why is the line removed? He said, well, it's not, he explicitly said it's not hawkish. It is just reflecting market realities. I mean, so we don't need that line in that statement. So he was asked that. So yeah, I mean, that's a good point to highlight. But he was asked in that the press conference later.
Okay, but I think we still have a lot more data points before the December meeting. I think 1 employment and 2 inflation numbers should be out. So that will be the economic data points, which will decide in December whether we will have the third interest rate cut from the Federal Reserve. But the sentiment across Asia is fairly upbeat. Taiwan is up nearly 0.9%. Hang Seng continues to gain up. For China, which has rallied 6.5% this week, and this morning too, China is slightly on the higher side. It's basically optimism going or hope going into the NPC, offset to some extent by the Trump tariff. So it's pretty much a face-off between these two events. For the Indian markets, yesterday, of course, was a big down day. Week to date, the Nifty is down close to about 0.5%. Big earnings day. So you've got State Bank of India, Tata Motors, Ola Electric, LIC, Ashok Leyland, Whirlpool. These are some of the big large and mid-cap numbers that we'll firmly keep our eye out on. In terms of flows, putting them on the table, the FI's net sold 4,900 crore. The DII buying was about 1,800 crore in the cash market. Also, final day, if you want to subscribe to the Swiggy IPO, well, the mood up until now has been a bit tepid. As of day 2, it's been subscribed a total of 35%. And even the grey market premium, which wasn't much to begin with, I believe now has dwindled down to just about 1%. So Swiggy, QIBs typically come in on the last day, but that's going to be an important data point to monitor the primary market action and response towards large IPOs.
Pricing was good on Swiggy, so we'll have to see how demand shapes up.
But for Hyundai also, it came in right towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Till day 2, Hyundai was also very lukewarm.
Indeed. I was just talking about the way they priced it was far more attractive. Hyundai took a lot off the table before the IPO, which I think shareholders are a little bit skittish on that. But let's take the top cues then. If you're looking at the US yield, you're looking at crude oil prices. Both of them, the crude oil prices are more or less flattish, while the yields, they cooled off closer on 12 basis points, but they popped back up as well. So they're currently holding at around 4.35% odd. Remember, early in the trading session, they went down closer to around 4.3. The good news, though, is that the dollar index has cooled off from around that 105 odd mark to 104.5. We'll want it to cool off a little bit more. Moving to our domestic cues then. How did the F&O action shape up in trade yesterday? The clients, they're going their own way, adding long positions. The FIs, they're going the opposite direction. They're adding shorts. That was the action that we saw in index futures. And post this move, you have the FIs that are on the opposite ends of the spectrum with more than 1.5 lakh contracts on the short side, while clients are net long with close to 2.5 lakh contracts on the long side as well. Pulling up the options data, that appears there's a bit of a strategy at place at around the 24,200 call and the 24,200 put. If you just club both these two premiums together, you'll see the total premiums around 200 rupees, because yesterday the premium moved down a little bit. So if that's the case, then someone who's writing both these two strikes, they pocket close to 400 rupees. And then they're playing for a bit of a range. So 400 minus 24,200 and plus 24,200, which gives you that broad range, which perfectly tallies with what we've seen in the past. The recent low is at around 23,800, which is the lower end of the range. And the recent high is at around 24,604, which is at the upper end of the range. So that's the key data points out there. The Nifty Bank was off color yesterday, and that needs to perform to take us higher. And now I'll be looking at the reference point, which comes in at around that 20 DMA. That's 51,500. Extremely important that the Nifty Bank holds on to that level. And talking about banking names, the stock to watch today is going to be SBI. In the last 1 month, the stock is up 10%. In the last 5 sessions, the stock is up close to around 6%. SBI comes out with a set of numbers today, and that has the ability, to swing things around. Whether you're looking at the numbers or also the commentary that comes through, if it can deliver a positive surprise, it will be interesting to see whether or not the bulls latch onto that, not just for SBI, but for the PSU banking space as well. So we'll keep an eye out on that one.
All right, Nigel, thank you very much for that. So SBI very much in focus ahead of the numbers later today.